Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session by Scalar. In this particular session, we're going to look into web development and only the important concepts. So you can say this is kind of a crash course on web development where we'll be looking into HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and also Git and GitHub. Now, before we move on with this particular session, please make sure to subscribe to Scalar's YouTube channel so that you don't miss our upcoming videos. Also, if you want to learn technologies and frameworks from industry-leading experts, we conduct free masterclasses. The link is in the description. Now, let's look at the topics that are going to be covered in this particular session. To start off with, we'll start off with something very simple. That is, how does the World Wide Web work? Once we understand that, we'll move on with the first topic, that is basics of HTML, and also we'll see how to create a simple web page using it. Once we learn that, then we'll style that particular web page. We'll use CSS and Bootstrap in order to style it, and also learn how to deploy code on it. While learning that, we'll also try to learn certain Git commands like Git commit, Git status, and more. So these are the topics. Now let's get started.
First, let me clear a few of the terminologies which I am going to use very frequently in this video. For example, what is a client and what is a server? So, a client, more specifically web client, is a machine which has the capability to send requests to our servers. These requests can be sent using application protocols like HTTP and HTTPS. One thing to note here is the client has to be connected with the internet. Again, the server is a machine which accepts those requests sent by our client, process those requests and send the results back to our requested client. But what happens when you hit any URL from your browser? Let's take an example of hitting google.com from your browser. Here your browser is acting like a client machine which is requesting Google server to send the corresponding responses to your browser, which your browser can interpret or parse and show it to the user on their UI in a presentable format. So are we saying that by hitting google.com on our browser we are able to request to Google servers? Well, the answer is no. Let's understand this via an analogy. Let's say you want to call one of your friend. Now each of your friend is going to have a different and unique phone number. And as these phone numbers are difficult to learn, you are going to save those phone numbers with a particular name in your mobile phones. Similar things we do in web as well. Now each server has their own unique IP addresses, which are internet protocol addresses. But our browser is going to hit the server with the domain names. So what do you think how we are going to map the server names with our IP addresses? For this, we are going to use a server known as DNS. DNS is domain name server, which resolves the mapping of IP addresses with its name. You can understand this again by the same analogy of saving phone numbers with the corresponding name in your phone. So you can understand DNS as the contact list where we have the mapping of IP addresses with the corresponding domain names. So now we have understood how to get the IP address of the server. So what is going to happen when you hit the URL on the browser? Using DNS, you are first going to resolve the domain name. And now when you have the IP address of the server, your request is going to be redirected to your server. Your server is going to process your request and send the result back to you. Then your browser is going to parse the response which it has received from the server and present it on the UI, which is user interface. Now let's see practically how the request and responses happen on the web browser. So for that we are going to use Google Inspect tool. For that you can right click on your screen, go to Inspect and then go to Network tab. Here as you can see we don't have any request right now. Now let's go to your search Google or type the URL. Here you can search any URL. I am writing google.com. If you see, we have a lot of requests coming in the network tab now. And the first request being to google.com. And the third is on www.google.com, which is the actual URL of google.com. Now if you see here, we have a lot of parameters like request URL, request method, which is get in our case, status code, which is 200 here, which represents that our request is successful by the server. And to see the response which has been sent by our server to our client, which is browser in this case, we can go to the response tab. If you see here, we have a very big document which is a HTML document. Now how I identified this is using the doc type attribute. Here doc type is HTML. So that is why the browser knows that this is an HTML document and parses accordingly. Now as we can see, here we have a lot of parameters, but how we are defining these parameters and which rules we are following. So these rules and regulations are set up by application protocols like HTTP and HTTPS. So HTTP represents Hypertext Transfer Protocol, whereas HTTPS represents Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, which provides security to your communication. So till now we have understood how to fetch the IP addresses of our server, how to make a request to our server and pass the response in our browser. So we are all good to start learning the basics of HTML. So in the next section of this video, we are going to learn about the basics of HTML. So HTML is Hypertext Markup Language. Please don't confuse it with other programming languages like Java and C++. HTML is a markup language which we use to decide the structure and skeleton of our web pages. Now let's create a new folder. You can click on the new folder icon. You can name it anything. I am naming it as Hello World, as this is going to be our first project. And inside this project, you can create a new file. I am naming the file as index.html. Now here you can type anything. Let's type Hello World again. Save this file and open it with Chrome. So you can right click on the file, reveal in Finder and open this file with Google Chrome. So here if you see, we have Hello World written on the UI. Now you must be wondering what is the difference between the .html extension and the normal .txt extension. So let's see the difference. I am again going back to my VS Code, creating a new file with .txt extension. The name is again going to be same. I am just following the convention where we use HTML as the name of the file which is going to be the landing page of our website. Now again here we can write Hello World. Save this file and again open it with Chrome. Now here also if you see, we have Hello World written on the UI. So what is the difference? So to see the difference, I am going to add a tag in the HTML file. I am going to write h1 here, which is a heading tag in HTML. Please don't worry about what are tags and what is h1 tag in HTML. We are going to cover it further in this video. So I am going to write a content heading here. Save this file and reload your page. So as you can see, we have heading written here, but the text styling and the size is different from Hello World. Now that is because we have used the heading tag in our HTML file, and if we use the same content in our .txt extension file, now let's just copy this line and paste it in our normal text extension file. Save the file and reload in the browser. So here if you see, the content is written exactly how we have written it on the file without any formatting. That is because our browser knows that the previous file is a .html extension file and the current file is a text file. So we pass it accordingly. So now as we have understood the difference between the HTML and normal TXT file, in the next section of the video we are going to go deeper into HTML tags and how we are going to format our web pages. So HTML tags are used to tell our browser how we want to show elements on the web page. Let's see with an example. I'm just clearing out all these information and starting a fresh tag with HTML. So this is going to be the first tag that we write in our HTML file, which shows that this is an HTML document. And here we add an attribute also as doc type. So I'm just going to write doc type here, which is going to represent that this document is HTML file, which is going to represent that this document is HTML5 document. Now everything that we mention here will be passed as an HTML document. Now in this we can have different type of tags like head tag. In the head tag, we have all the information which we do not want to showcase on the web page, but they are still related to our website. For example, the title of your website. So for title, we have the title tag. I am going to write title here and the VS Code is auto completing my code. So let's say I am writing hello world as the name of my website. Again, save this document and reload your page. So here if you see, we have nothing on the web page itself, but the tab name is hello world here because the title of our website is hello world defined. Now other type of information that we can add in the head tag are like metadata. Metadata is the data about data. So it can help in the search engine optimization of your website. Another thing that we can add in the head tag itself are the links of the string. Metadata is data about data. You can use that tag for your search engine optimization. Now another very important tag inside your head tag is the links. Links that you can use to add style sheets and JavaScript file to your HTML documents. Now let's come to the next portion where we have body tag. Body tag is the actual tag which we are going to represent on the web page. So everything that we are going to write here will be represented on the web page. For example, I am writing hello world again, saving this document and refreshing my page. So now we have hello world written on the web page. So here we have hello world written on the web page. That is because it is defined under body tag. One very interesting thing about HTML files are they are case insensitive, which means even if I type this doc type in all small case letters, even then it is going to work exactly same as it is working with uppercase letters. Here if you see, VS Code is helping us to understand that our code is not correct right now. Can you see what is missing here? If you see, we don't have any opening bracket corresponding to this HTML. This is just the declaration that the doc type is HTML. This is not an opening tag for the corresponding closing tag. So I'm just going to write here HTML again to correct my code. And here if you see, the VS Code has auto completed it. Now as the closing tag was already there, so I'm just going to save my file and then for indentation purpose, just cut this and paste again. Now save this file and as you can see, the VS Code has already done proper indentation here. But one very interesting thing to note about HTML is we really don't care about indentation right now. Even if I write the whole code in a single line, the browser will be able to parse this correctly if the opening and closing tags are properly written. Now let's first understand what are opening and closing tag and what are other elements present in HTML tag. So we have basically three parts in a HTML tag. One being the opening tag that we have already seen, like this one, line number 2. Second, we have the closing tag corresponding to the opening tag, like this one on line number 14. And the third, we have content, the content that is written between the opening and the closing tag, like all the content that is written from line number 3 to line number 13. Now one interesting thing in HTML tags are there are some exceptions where we do not have a closing tag corresponding to the opening tag of a particular element. Now there are also some tags in HTML which does not have any space to write content. For example, BR. BR is a tag to add a break line, or it works like enter in paragraphs. Now let's see how we can add comments in HTML file. So everything that we comment out will not be passed by our browser and will not be shown on the web page. So I am using a shortcut here with command and /, but you can add these tags by yourself as well. Now all these line which is written in the comment section will not be displayed on the web page. Let's save this file and see the response. Reload your page and here as you can see, we do not have heading to written. This opening, closing and content is coming because of this, so let's just clear it out, save it and reload it again. So here if you see, we do not have the content which is mentioned in the comment section. So that's how you can add comment in your HTML file. Let's just uncomment this code again and add a new tag. So now we are going to add paragraph tag here. In the paragraph tag, you can write any general paragraph or text that you want to display on your web page. So I am writing, I am Rishika. So just save this file and reload it again. So here, as we can see, I am Rishika is written differently from heading 1 and heading 2. That is because heading tag is applying some CSS styling that we are going to learn in the next video also, but just to give a reference, we are adding some styling here, and all the styling can be seen using the inspect tool as well. So you can again go to the inspect tool and click on this particular element. Here if you see, we have all these properties. Now these properties are known as CSS styling, and in the paragraph element and in the heading element, this styling is going to be different, and hence we see the difference on our web page also. So the next tag that we are going to discuss about is the anchor tag. Anchor tag is used to add links on our web page. So I am just going to write A here, and A refers anchor here. Now this anchor tag, inside the content section, I am going to write, let's say, click here. Let's save this file and see what is happening on our web page. Now if you see, we have click here written here, but we haven't added any link, and the purpose of anchor tag is to add links to our web page. So let's just copy paste this Google URL and let's see how we can add it in the anchor tag. So we are going to use an attribute known as href. So in the href, we can copy paste the URL that we have just copied and then save this file. Reload your page and let's see what happens. So if you see, now we have this effect of links, and when we click on this link, the URL is loaded. Now you can use other properties as well, like target. These all are attributes. Attributes helps us to define some specific properties within our element itself. These attributes are not going to be displayed on the web page, but these attributes are not going to be displayed on the web page as we are not writing them in the content section like click here, but they will help us to give some properties to the element. So you can mention whether you want to click this link and open it on the new tab or maybe new window or in the same window using the target attribute. So that's about the anchor tag. The next tag that we are going to discuss is the image tag, which is represented by img. So I'm going to write img here, and if you see, the VS Code hasn't auto completed it with the corresponding closing tag, because image tag is a special kind of tag where we do not have a corresponding closing tag. And it does make sense, right? Isn't it? Because in the image itself is the content. We do not have to write any specific content by ourselves. So here we are just going to mention the source URL of our image. So for that we are going to use the source attribute, and here we can give the reference path or maybe the URL of the image. So I have already some saved image, and let's just see how we can add them in the source attribute. So I'm just going to write images, and as you can see, the VS Code is already suggesting us the complete path. I'm going to click on the first image, save this file and reload it. So the image is added on the web page now. So that's how you can use the image tag and the other type of tags that we have discussed till now. Now let's see div and span tag. So although these two tags does not do any special functionality by themselves, but they are useful to group different HTML elements together. For example, if I add a paragraph and let's say hello, I am writing in the content section, and let's again add another paragraph, and in this I am writing world. Now these two paragraphs are inside this div. So if I save this file, reload my page and then use Google Inspect tool, I can see the two paragraphs are grouped together inside the div tag. So just hover on the elements, and if you see, the div tag holds both type of content, and both paragraphs are actually the child of the parent div. So that's how you can group different elements together. It becomes very useful when you want to apply CSS or styling on your elements. Grouping different elements together helps you to define a style which can be applied on all the child items which are present in a particular div. Now let's see the different type of list we have in HTML. So here we have three types of list: ordered list, unordered list and description list. Let's see how we can add ordered list on our web page. For that, I am going to use OL tag. OL refers to ordered list. Now to add element in this list, you can use li tag. Inside this, you can just write that this is your option 1, and to add more elements, you can add more li tags inside your OL tag. This is option 2. Now save this file and reload your page. And here, as you can see, we have two options, and as the list is ordered, we have the S number as 1 and 2. Now let's see how to add the unordered list. It's very similar to ordered list, it's just that the tag name will change here. So I'm just going to copy paste all the options that we have in our first list and save this file. Reload your page, and now as you can see, we have an unordered list also. And as this is unordered, we don't have any serial number linked with them. And lastly, we have description list. So in description list, we are going to have a description associated with each element of the list. For example, I am going to add a title here with the tag DT, and the name of the title is, let's say, title 1. Now to add the description with this title, I am going to use the DD tag, and I can write this is description 1. Now save these changes and reload your page. As you can see here, we have title 1 and the corresponding description added in the list. So that's all about today's video. As we have seen a lot of tags in HTML, but there are a lot more, like you can add forms, list, tables and a lot more with HTML. So now you can explore more about HTML tags. So as I mentioned, CSS is cascading style sheets. We can even see CSS file in our web browser also. So let's go to again google.com, click on inspect tool, and let's see the different type of CSS properties applied in different elements of this web pages. You can just hover on the element and see the styling applied on this particular element. So here if you see, we have display property represented as block, and the body tag of HTML has this type of CSS properties inside it. I hope now you have understood what is meant by key value pair in CSS. So in this video, we are going to learn more about CSS and a framework which is built upon CSS, which is Bootstrap. It is an open source framework and very easy to use. So again, this video is going to be very beginner friendly and with the assumption that you have no idea about CSS, and in this video you are going to write your very first code in CSS. So get your laptops ready and let's start with the first topic. Now first you have to define your index.html file, and using that HTML file we are going to apply CSS on it. So first I am going to create a doc type HTML which will define that the type of this document is HTML5. Now I will create the HTML tag, and inside it I will create a body tag. Now in the body I can have some headings or paragraphs. So let's say I am creating a paragraph, hey there. Save this file and load it on Chrome. So for that you can reveal it in Finder and then open it with Chrome. So here as you can see we have hey there written, but currently there is no CSS or styling applied on this text. So in this video we are going to check how we are going to apply CSS on a particular file. So in this video we are going to see how we can apply CSS or styling to our web elements. So first I am going to create a file with the extension CSS. The name of the file can be anything, but I am writing style.css. Again, this is by convention that for the landing page of your website, the corresponding CSS can be index.css or style.css if you are writing all the CSS of your web pages together. So here the syntax goes like this. First we are going to have a selector, and then under curly braces you can define your key value pairs, where key represents the property of CSS and value is the corresponding value. So it goes like this. And if you want to define multiple properties within one curly brace, then you can just separate them with a semicolon. So let's say this is key 1 and the corresponding value is v1, and let's say we want to add another key, so we can add it like this. So this is pretty simple syntax of CSS. Now the question arises, what are these selectors and how do we know what are the key value pairs which are available in CSS? So let's see how. But even before that, we have to first learn how to add CSS in your HTML file. So there are 3 ways to add CSS in your HTML document. First is the inline way. So I'm just going to write it here. First is the inline way, second is internally adding CSS to your HTML file, and the third one is to add externally CSS file to your HTML file. So here we are first going to learn about inline CSS. For inline CSS, you are going to use the style attributes of HTML elements. So here I can write style equal, and in the double quotes I can define the properties of CSS. So for example, let's say if I want to change the color of this text, then I can simply write color followed by colon, and let's say I want to change it to blue. Now save this file and reload your page. Here you can see the color of your text is changed now. And it is pretty simple to add inline CSS because here we want exactly which element we are going to change using our CSS. But it's not a very conventional or good way to add CSS using inline styling, because as you can see, we are not going to separate the HTML and CSS file. So the code can become huge and difficult to understand. The second reason can be, if I want to apply the same styling to, let's say, different element, then I have to rewrite the code again, and it will cause duplication of my code. The second way is to add your CSS internally in your HTML file. For that, you can use the style tag. And as we are using CSS in our HTML itself, and it's not something that we want to showcase on our web page, hence we want to define it in the head tag itself. So I'm going to write head here, and inside head I'm going to write style. Now everything that I write in style is going to be act as the CSS file for this HTML document. So here I am going to apply the similar properties which I applied on line number 9. So let me just copy this code and write it inside the style tag. So it's color colon blue. But now the question arises, I want to apply this styling specific to this paragraph tag. How to select this paragraph tag? Now it can be done using selectors. We have different types of selectors in CSS, and in this video we are going to learn about 3 selectors primarily: the select by ID, select by name, and select by classes. Although let's first discuss about briefly all type of selectors which we have in CSS. The first type of selectors are simple selectors. In simple selectors, we have select by class, select by ID, and select by name. So here name we already know is the tag name, like P is a tag name for paragraph here. So I can select my styling using tag name. Let's try this. So I am going to write P, and just in double quotes I am going to define this style. So now as you can see, the styling is applied on the element. So first let me just remove this inline code so that we can test if our internal CSS is working or not. And let's just comment out this code, save the file and refresh our page. As you can see, the color of the text is still blue. To test this more firmly, we can change the color. Let me just try green now. Save this file and refresh your page. So now as you can see, the color of your text is green. So that means your internal CSS is also working fine. But now let's see the other type of selectors we have in CSS. So right now we have selected our element by tag name, but we can also select our element using classes and ID. Now let's see what are classes. So classes are the property using which we can classify the elements of HTML. So let's say if I define a property here, class P1, And if I want to apply the same styling on a different paragraph with the same class, so I am going to write class as P1 here. So P1, and here I am going to write a different text. So hello. Save this file, and now let's see the text of both the paragraphs. Now as you can see, the color of both the paragraphs are green right now, but that is because we have still identified paragraphs for the selector. Let's change it to P1, save our file, and let's see what happens. Now as you can see, the color is black again. Why so? Because we have mentioned P1 here, but without saying that P1 is not a tag but it is a class. So to distinguish between the class by ID, name and tag, we have different ways to showcase them. So for classes, I am going to use dot here, and as you can see, VS Code is already suggesting me the corresponding class. So I am just going to save this document and reload the page. And now as you can see, the text of these paragraphs are again green, and both the text are green. That means we are able to select our elements based on classes. Now the third simple selector is select by ID. So let's create another paragraph here and add an attribute of ID. Now I can mention ID 1 here, and let's see what happens. I can just write hello there again, and let's see if we are going to apply the same CSS using dot operator. So I am going to write ID 1 here, and as you can see, the VS Code is not suggesting me any class. So the ID can be selected using hash. Now I can write ID 1 here and the corresponding properties inside curly braces. So again, let's define the color property, and let's define red color here for our third paragraph. Save this file and see the changes. Here as you can see, the third paragraph is in red color now. So we have tested select by ID as well. So till now we have covered about simple selectors. The next type of selectors we have are combinator selectors. In this type of selectors, we are going to use the relationship between different elements of HTML. For example, these paragraphs are child element of our body element, right? So here we are going to select these paragraphs based on the relationship they have with our body element. Third type of selector we have are pseudo class selector. Pseudo class selector are used to select element based on their classes which are temporary. For example, you must have seen in many websites when you hover on a button, the CSS of that button or styling of that button changes. The color of the button sometimes change, and even the size of the button sometimes change on the website. So that is because we have applied specifically on the state of the button, which is hover in this case. So that was pseudo class selectors. The next we have our pseudo element selector. Here we are going to select the element only in the cases when we want to apply CSS on some part of the element. For example, let's say if I want to apply CSS only on the first letter of this complete sentence, then I can use pseudo element selectors. And lastly, we have attribute selectors which select HTML elements based on the attributes that we define inside the opening tag. For example, if you want to apply CSS based on the target attribute of anchor tag, then you can use attribute selectors. So we were discussing about how to add CSS to your HTML documents, and we covered about inline styling and how to add internal CSS inside the HTML document itself. So next we are going to learn about how to add CSS style externally. So let me just clear this out. And for adding CSS externally, we are going to add it in the link tab. So let's see how we can add CSS externally. Also, let me just remove this style tag as well. And now we are going to use the link tag. Link tag is defined in HTML itself. It is used to add links in our head tag itself, where we can refer the CSS style files or JavaScript file that we want to use in our HTML document. So here we have attributes like rel, which shows the relationship of this file with our browser. So as we are going to add a style sheet here, hence with the rel attribute, we are going to mention style sheet as the value. After that, to add the link of your style sheet, you are going to use the href attribute. Here you can refer the link or the source path of your style sheet. So I am going to write style.css. Now that's how you can add your CSS file externally. So whatever now you add here will be added in your HTML file. Let's try this. So I'm going to write P and then color as green. So again I'm going to select attributes based on their tag name. And now just save both the files and refresh our page. Here as you can see, all the 3 paragraphs are green now. So that's how you can add your CSS to HTML file with either of the 3 ways. Now let's see how we can comment out code in CSS. So for that I am going to add another property. Let's say I am adding text align property to center. First let's see what this property does. So I am going to refresh my page, and as you can see all the text are aligned at the center of the page. So now let's try to use commenting out of code. So for that I am using a shortcut of command and /. Now as you can see, this code is comment out and will not be processed by our browser. But you can also manually add these symbols around the code which you want to comment out. Now let's see how our page looks. So as you can see, the property of color is gone now. The next topic that we are going to cover is CSS box model. The model helps us to understand the structure of HTML elements better, like how much area of the total element is used by the content and how much area is used by other things like margin, border or padding. So as mentioned, we have different parts of the box model like content padding, border and margin. Where the content refers to the portion where actual content will be shown, the padding is the area around the content, above padding we have border and above border we have margin. You can see the CSS box model visually also in the Google Inspect tool. You can see this CSS box model visually also using Google Inspect tool. All you need to do is right click on the page, go to Inspect tool and then click on any element on which you want to see the CSS properties applied on that particular element. So here as you can see, color is marked as false. I can tick mark as green also, so that will change the color of the elements. So now you also can define new properties here. Let me define padding property and let me add some pixels here. So as you can see, now the alignment or the padding of these elements are changed. You can even change the CSS properties of these elements just for testing purpose here. Just a note that this will not change any property in your actual CSS file, but just to test you can write some CSS here as well. For example, I have defined padding property. Similarly, I can define the margin and border property as well. And as you can see, we have a box model visualization here as well. And hovering on different elements of our box model, I can see the type and width this model is taking. For example, margin is taking 16th width and border is taking nil, and hence there is no highlighting for border. Padding is taking 10 as we have mentioned in the CSS also, and finally in the content box, this is the width and height that we are taking. So that's how you can visualize your CSS box model. Now that's the brief about CSS, and we are all set to learn about Bootstrap now. Now Bootstrap is an open source CSS framework which helps us to design a website very simply in just few lines of code. So let's just go to the official website of Bootstrap. You can directly search Bootstrap on Google and the first link will be most probably the official website of Bootstrap. So as you can see, this is the official website of Bootstrap, and here if you click on official documentation of Bootstrap, you will get all the information which can help you to get started with Bootstrap. So here as you can see, we have a quick start documentation with step-wise method of how you can add Bootstrap to your HTML files. So the first step is create a new index.html file which we have already created. Now in the second step, we have a step to add link in the head tag we can add a link like this in the head tag. So let me just copy paste this link and I am going to add this link in my HTML file. So here let's do that. I am going to remove this line, our custom CSS file, and add the Bootstrap CSS. Now to test this, I am going to add an anchor tag with the reference of google.com. So let me just copy paste this URL, add it in the href attribute of anchor tag and right click here. Now to add the CSS classes, I am just going to add a class of button which is defined in Bootstrap. Now save your document and let's see the result. I am going to load this page and as you can see here we have an anchor tag. So as you can see, when I am hovering on this anchor tag, the type of my cursor is changing because this style is defined in the Bootstrap CSS. We can also see in the inspect tool what all CSS properties are defined for this particular element. So let's try this. So I just hover on the element and as you can see we have all these properties defined for the btn class. We can also try adding colors to this btn by adding multiple classes for the same element. So let's try this. Now I am going to add a class btn primary. Save this file and let's see the results. I am going to reload the page and now as you can see the button CSS is changed and the color of the button is blue now. You can experiment with Bootstrap and play with it accordingly. Now I hope you understood how we can use Bootstrap in our HTML files. So let's learn more about Bootstrap. The first thing that we are going to learn about Bootstrap is the container classes. Container is a very simple class which is used to wrap the content in your web page. Let me define a div and use the class container to it. So I am going to add a container class here in the div element. So first I have defined the div and inside the div you can add some paragraphs or headings. So let's say I am writing hello. You can write anything here and let's define another element, let's say heading 2 and I am writing heading 2 here. Now these two tags are defined under div element. So these two are actually the child elements of our div element. Now I am going to add a class container to this div. You can simply write container in the class attribute. So container here, let's save this file and let's see the difference. So here as you can see we have some alignment differences for these two elements and the other elements which we have on the UI. So that is because of the container class. Now we have different type of container classes. Another class that we have is the container fluid classes. Now let's see the difference between container and container fluid. So if you see the width of the container fluid class is 100% while the width of the container class is little less than that. So you can choose accordingly the type of design you want to have for your web page and based on that you can choose your container class. After that, once you have defined your container, all the things that you want to showcase on your web page can reside inside the container class. So I am just going to copy this code and paste it in the container class. Now let's refresh our page and here as you can see now everything is inside the same div and I like container class more, so I am just going to change it with container and now we have this style here. So that's about the container class, but we have a lot more in Bootstrap and as you can see on the official website these are all the layouts and content available. Now this is the beauty of open source programs or open source projects. So the documentation is really good for Bootstrap. You can even see we have layouts, content, form and different elements which we can define in our HTML and style using Bootstrap. And one good thing about Bootstrap is it helps to make your website responsive. Making your website responsive refers to that it doesn't depend on the size of the screen. In every size of the screen, your website will look good without any break. So let's see how. If you click on the inspect tool, you can change the size of this website. Now let me change the size as a mobile screen. Here you can see everything is in place, which means that this website is responsive. Even if I change the size of the screen, the website will look good without any breaks. So as you can see, every element in this web page is adjusting itself based on the size of the screen. So Bootstrap helps us to make a responsive website with very less amount of code. Now let's see how. We can do this using breakpoints. So breakpoints help us to decide whether we want to divide our website. So for example, for extra small screen, we can define the behavior of our website, and similarly for other type of screens as well. And that can be done using grid system. So let's just add a row here. For that I am going to add a div, and I am going to add a class of row here. So you can type row, and that will simply add a row into your HTML document. Now inside a row, you can define any number of columns. So let's say I am defining again a div, and I am giving a class of column here now. So class col, which refers to column, and here I can write, let's say this is column 1. I am going to copy paste this code to create some more columns. So let's say I am defining 3 columns right now. So I am going to copy this column and paste it twice in the same row. So this will create 3 columns in the same row with same size. Let's see how. So let's refresh our page, and as you can see, all the 3 columns are adjusted based on equal size. So because we haven't defined any kind of breakpoint here, although we can define how much width a column should take. For example, this complete row has a size of 12. Now I can define the first column should take 3, the second column should take 2. If I refresh the page, I can see the difference that the first column is taking 3 width and the second column is taking 2, and the rest is taken by the third column. So that is the grid system. Now you can even see these properties inside your inspect tool again, and you can even see that the site is responsive. So as you can see, using different attributes of grid system, we can make our website responsive as well by defining proper breakpoints. So for the first example, we have all the columns with equal width. But if you go little down, you can see we have a lot of grid options which we can use to define our breakpoints. For example, for extra small screen, for medium screen, large, extra large and extra large screens, we can define our breakpoints, and accordingly our grid system will work. Now let's see how to use components which are defined in Bootstrap. So let's see how we can add cards which are already defined in Bootstrap. For that, the defined classes are like cards for the complete card div, card body to describe the body of your card, and some other classes like card title and text. So let me just clear this code and create a new div in my container class, and this time I am going to add a class of card here. So just write class, and in this I can write card. So for that I have just defined a card div, and inside this div I can define other divs like card body, card title, etc. So now I am going to define the body of my card. So again create a new div which is like the child div of my parent class, and here I can write class as card body. So just like that. Now inside this you can add properties like images, text and other variables. So first I am going to add an image in my card body. So again you can either create a div or you can directly add image. So I am going to add directly an image here. The source of this image is going to be, so I have many images already saved here. So I am going to write image and then slash, and as you can see VS Code is already suggesting me these options. So I am going to add image2, let's say, and the class of this image tag can be card image, or you can also search which class you want to apply using the references which are given in this blog. So in the blog we have a class card image top written. So I am going to add the same class in my file as well. So here I can just copy paste the name of the class, or you can even type as well. So card, image and top. Now let's add the card title as well. I am going to create a new div with a class as card title, and in the title you can write anything. I am writing hi there. Now save this file and see the response. I am going to load my page again and let's see the response. As you can see, I have a CSS with a card tab with the image that I have just added and the card title as hi there. So that's how you can add Bootstrap card CSS to your HTML cards. Now similarly, we have other components as well, like carousel, collapse, navbar, list, drop downs and whatnot. And it's just a matter which class you are applying to which div, and the whole CSS will be taken care of by the Bootstrap itself. Isn't it that easy? You can play with Bootstrap and let me know in the comment section if you find anything attractive or if you build anything useful. Now I want to show you one very interesting thing. Let me add an anchor tag here and add a class of button. So I am going to add a class of btn and then btn primary. So that I will add a primary color to this particular anchor tag. And let's add click here as the content. Save this file and see our html.index file. Now I have a click here button and the color of this button is green right now. But let me say if I want to add another CSS file with class of button secondary. Now here the anchor tag has all the three classes btn, btn primary and btn secondary. Now let's see what would be the final result of our button. Let me refresh this page, and as you can see we have click here as green in color because that is the color of btn secondary class. Now if you inspect the tool, you can see all the CSS which is applied on the element. So let me just see the full page view and drag it little up, and here you can hover on the element, and here if you see the color is applied through btn secondary class and all the colors which are applied through btn primary class are crossed now. Now that is because of the order it has been defined in the Bootstrap CSS file. The last CSS which has been applied on the class will be applied on the element. So sometimes it creates little confusion about what classes and properties are applied on the specific element because we have added too much of Bootstrap classes in the same element. So that's a heads up for you, and you can now start playing with Bootstrap. You can even add multiple classes to a single element and see it yourself which class is defined later in the Bootstrap library. Let's get started with the first topic. What is Git? So Git is a free open source version controlling system and most widely used of its own kind. Here very important keyword to note are version controlling system. Now what does that mean? A version control system or a source control system are used to track the history and the different kind of versions that you have pushed on the project to maintain them. Now this can be done using special kind of databases to store the difference of the file that you have done in the different version of your projects. So let's say if you have made any mistake in the latest version of your project, then using the version control system, you can go back in the history, look at all the file changes that you have made for particular versions and fix your code. Now this becomes very essential when you work on projects where other developers are also contributing to. The next question arises, why version control system becomes so important these days? So let's take an example. When you are working in a corporate world, mostly you work on projects where other teams and developers are also contributing. And sometimes it also happens that you are managing multiple features and functionalities within the same project. Now this can be very easily done using the version control system. You can create multiple branches from your project and handle them separately. Now let's talk more about Git. Git is a distributed version control system which brings a complete copy of the repository to each team member. Now it provides the flexibility and fasten up the development cycle process. Now let's see how we can download Git to our systems. So now I have opened Visual Studio Code and here we are going to see how we are going to use different Git commands. But before that, first we have to download Git for the system. So if you are using Windows, you can download Git from this website. This is the official Git website for Windows. If you are using Mac, then you can use sourceforge.net website to download Git for Mac. And if you are using Linux, then you can directly use command prompt and use the command sudo apt-get install git. Now after that, once you have downloaded Git, you have to configure it for the system. For that, you are going to set some properties like email address and username. Now once you have downloaded Git for the system, we have to configure different properties like username and email address. There are some commands for that. Now let's try them. So I'm going to open terminal here itself and I'm going to write git config and then we can mention the property we want to set. So I'm using git config global as these are global variables and then the property name. So here the property name is user.name. So using this property we can set the username for our Git. Hit enter and here as we can see the username property is set. Similarly we can set the email address as well. So I'm going to write the same command with different property. So global and then user.email. Here you can mention the email address that you want to set. So now both the username and email address is set for your Git. Now we can start with our project. So before that, let's see few of the Linux command which I am going to use in this video very frequently. The first command is the cd command. The cd command represents change directory. Using this command, you can change the directory or the path where you are right now. For example, if I want to go back from my current directory, I can use cd --. This is the shortcut. Now if I want to go back again to the directory where I was, I can simply write cd and desktop. So here if you see the directory is changed to desktop now. So we can give any path to the cd as an argument and at that part our directory will be changed. The second command that we are going to see is the ls command. Using the ls command, we can list the files and directories in a particular folder. So let's try this. If I type ls here, I can see all the files which are available to this particular path. The next command that we are going to see is the mkdir command. Mkdir represents make directory. So we can create new folders using that directory. For example, if I write mkdir corresponding to the folder name, let's say it's hello. So in the same directory where I am going to create a new directory with the name hello. Let's try this if the directory is created or not. We can again type ls and here if you see we have a new folder with the name hello. So mkdir is to make a new directory. So the next command is remove directory for which the command name is rmdir. So let's try to remove the directory that we have just created. You can just mention the name of the directory or the reference path. So I'm going to write hello here and let's see if the directory is deleted or not. Let's again try ls and here if you see we don't have the hello directory. The last command that we are going to see is the touch command. Using touch command you can create new files. For example, if I want to create a file, let's say test.cpp, you can also give the extension of the file here. So I am creating a C++ file, so I am writing test.cpp and let's try ls. If you see a new file is created with the name test and the extension is also C++. Now let's just remove this with the rm command. Rm command is to remove the files that we have created. So I'm going to write test.cpp and let's remove this. And the last very important command is the diff command. Diff command is used to check the difference between two files. So let's say if you have created two files and if you want to check the difference between the two files character wise, then you can use this command. Now let's see how to use Git to manage our project. So first I am going to create a Git repository. So let me just first clear out this terminal and create a new directory with the mkdir command. So I am writing project1 as the name and open it in Visual Studio. So now as you can see we have created a new folder with the name project1. Now let's see how we can make it as a Git repository. A Git repository contains a collection of files to track and see the history of all the changes that you have made in this project. Here I have already created a simple HTML file, or you can create a new one as well using the touch command. So I am using touch and index.html. So you can name it anything. I am naming it as index.html. Now if you see, a new file is created. So now if you check the Git status of our repository, currently we don't have any status because we haven't initialized our repository yet. So to initialize your repo, you can use the command git init. Init is for initialization. So now as you can see, initialized empty Git repository. So now our repository is initialized. Now if you see this Git status is basically to track what is happening in your repo. Now it is written that we have created a new file with the name index.html. So we are just tracking all the changes that is happening in our current repository. So with the git init, we have created this folder as a Git repo, and then in the further video we are going to check how we are going to track this repository. So there are a lot of commands which are related to Git. So if you are unable to remember them, you can simply use git help. So just type git and -- help. All the commands will be available to you. For example, git clone is used to clone a repository, which is if a repository is already deployed somewhere, you can make a copy of that repository and store it locally. And the git init we have already used. Now there are some other commands as well where we can track our current changes. For example, git add is used to add all the change file in your repo. For example, git commit is used to record the changes in the repository with a specific message. Now let's see how all these commands works. So I am going to type something here. I am going to use, let's say, HTML tag first, as this is a HTML document, and inside this I am going to write body tag. In body we can define some paragraph, and let's say I am writing this is my first code. Now these are some changes I have done. Now save this file and check the git status. Now after adding your file, you can save your changes, but before that let's just see the status of our git repo. So I am again going to type git status, and here if you see, now this file is no more untracked. We have this file tracked as a new file with the same name. Now to commit those changes, if you are sure that your changes are correct, you can save it on the repository history using the git commit command. Now in the git commit, you can also add a message using the -m argument. So here make sure you write a correct commit message, because this message will help you to look back in the history effectively. So here I am writing this is my first commit. Hit enter. And now as you can see, we have all these log which is saying that we have committed the new file and all the changes that has been made till now. So after that, if you want to see your git history, you can also see that using the git log command. So just type git log, and here if you can see, I have the author information and the modified time as well. Now this helps a lot when you are handling a project where there are a lot of features and requests coming in, and multiple developers are working at the project at the same time. So here if you see, we have all the information which is required to track your git history. For example, who is making that changes? So I have the author information and the last modified time here as well. Now it becomes very important to have these kind of information when you are working on a project where there are a lot of features and functionalities coming in at the same time. The next command that we are going to learn about is how to create a new branch from the current branch. For that, my command is git checkout with the parameter of -b. After that, you can give the name of the new branch that you want to create. So let's say I am giving the branch name as hello. Just hit enter and a new branch is created now. To check on which branch you are currently in, you can use the command git branch, and it will showcase you all the branches which are available to your local system. Here currently we have two branches with the name main and hello. And to switch between different branches, you can again use the same checkout command but without -b parameter. So let's say if I want to switch to the main branch, I can simply write git checkout main. Now let's type git branch again to check on which branch we are currently in. So here currently we are on the main branch. It can be symbolized by this green color. After that, to make a change in your branch, you can just change the file and hit git add or git commit. So I am just going to change my newly created branch. So git checkout hello. After that, I am going to change this index file and I am creating another paragraph here. So let's say this is second paragraph. After that, you can just save this file, hit git add, and git add, if you add with a dot parameter, it will add all the change file. So now just check the status of your git history, and here you have the modified file as index.html. After that, I am doing a commit with a commit message of this is my second commit. Press enter and the commit is done. Now if I switch back to my main branch and make a difference with the current branch, I can see all the difference in the files. So just do a git diff and with the branch name. So the branch name was hello. As you can see here, I can see the difference. Now this command is very essential, especially when you want to check the difference between two different branches of same repository. Now let's see how we can manage two different diverging branches. For that, I am checking back to the newly created branch which is hello. So I am going to type git checkout with the branch name hello. So now as you can see, the file has already changed. So we are on the new branch and let's try the command git merge. So git merge with main, and here you can see the status as already up to date, which represent we do not have any conflict between the two branches. But let's try to change our main branch and then try to merge it. So git checkout main, and then I am going to update this file. So let's just remove this code, and instead of that we can add another tag. So instead of paragraph, I am going to add heading tag here, and let's just change the closing bracket also. Save this file and add it with a commit. So git add and git commit with a message. I am going to type a message heading change and just hit enter. After that, you can check out to your hello branch and let's try to merge it with the master. So here as you can see, we have the code highlighting with the color green and blue. That is because the blue color is coming from our main branch and the code highlighted with the green color is from our current branch. And there is a conflict between the two branches and the Git wasn't able to merge the branches properly. So we have to do it manually. So what I am going to do, I am just going to remove these lines and edit the file. The process will be similar. We have to do git add and git commit. Now I want to make all these three lines available in my final output. So let's just add git add and then git commit. Here we can write this is my third commit. So the command line is saying that we cannot do a partial commit during a merge because I missed to add the -m argument with the commit. So let's just add it, git commit -m and the message. Press enter. So now our third commit is done. Now let's again try to git merge with master. So I'm writing git merge master, and as you can see the merge is successful now. We do not have any conflict. Now we have talked a lot about Git and how to manage our project using it. Next we are going to learn about GitHub. So GitHub is a web-based interface which uses Git for its version controlling, and it provides an interface to store, track and collaborate on different software projects. Simply speaking, you can say that GitHub provides the interface to visualize what is happening in your Git history. For example, to see the difference between two versions of a project, you can use it and see the difference. To use GitHub, you can go to the official website, which is github.com. So you can search it on Google and the first link will be github.com itself. Now you can sign up or create a free account. I already have an account, so I am going to sign in here. So after signing in, you are going to see a UI like this. Here we have a lot of elements. Like in the left panel, you can see all your repositories. And then in the right side, you can see all the latest changes in the repository that you are following, or maybe the repository that you have created. Now in the navbar, we have a lot of options like pull request, issues, code spaces, marketplace and explore. So you can use GitHub to explore other projects as well, which are not created by you or maybe which are not owned by you. So you can use the search bar and maybe search topics like machine learning. You can use search bar for that. Here you can type keywords like machine learning and press enter. As you can see, we have a lot of results and all the results are categorized into these categories. Here we have repositories, codes, commits, issue and a lot more categories. So here you can find a lot of repositories which are interesting to you and start contributing into it. Now let's see how to add repository on your GitHub. So for that you can click on this plus icon and here you can see a lot of options are here. You can import any existing repository, you can create a new code space, and in the first option we have the option to create a new repo. So I'm clicking that, and after that you can fill all this description. It's a form using which you can create a new repo for yourself. Here the name should be unique in your profile. So I'm going to write hello, and in the description it is optional, but it's a good practice to add a description with your Git repositories. So I'm going to write, this is my first repo. Here you can also control whether you want to add your repo as a public repo or a private repo. After that, there is an option to add a README file. In the README file, you can add the description of your repo and how someone else can contribute into your repository. So for now, we are skipping this part and just click on create repo. So now as you can see, we have quick setup and all the details we can use to set up our new repository. The first option is we can create a new repo on the command line tool. But here, as we have already created our new repo with the UI, we don't need to follow these steps. The second option is push an existing repo from the command line. So as we have already created a local repository on our system, we can push that repo to this remote. For that, we are going to use this command. I am going to copy paste it in my terminal. After the git remote add command, the next command is git branch. This command is used to rename your existing branch. So let's just copy paste it, and now your branch name is renamed to main. Now to push this local branch into your remote, you can just type git push -u origin with the branch name. And as our branch name is switched to main now, so I am typing main here. As you can see here, the branch is pushed to remote server. Now here's a link as well of our remote repo. I can just follow this link and open it on Chrome. So now our main branch is set, and here we can create pull request now. So for that, I am going to create a new branch. I am going to use the git checkout command with the parameter -b, and let's create our second branch. So let's name it something else. And let's now add a commit in this. So here I am going to remove this line of heading tag. Save this file, git add and commit. This is a test commit. After that, you can push this branch to your remote as well. So again I am using the same command of git origin, but here the branch name is different now. The branch name is this. So now let's try to push this branch on our remote server. So for that, I am going to use the command git push -u origin with the branch name as the newly created branch. Press enter, and here as you can see, our new branch is created. You can follow the link again, and as you can see, the link is a pull request. Now here on the UI, I have the option to compare and create a pull request. If you go little down, we can see the difference in the file as well. And in the PR description, we can add the description and the title. So let's give the title, this is test PR. So in the description, you can add the description for this PR. For now, I am just adding hey there. Now create pull request. So the PR has to be approved by the reviewers in ideal scenarios. But in our case, as we haven't added any kind of rule for the PR protection, hence we get this option of merge pull request. So for now, I am just merging my pull request, but otherwise you can add your rules here as well. Just click on add rules, and here you can see a lot of options to protect your branch. As you can see, we can add this option require a pull request before merging, or maybe other options that without a description a pull request cannot be merged. So as you can see, we have a lot many options here to protect our branches. For example, you can add a rule that without a description your branch cannot be merged, or maybe you can also signify how many reviewers' approval are required before merging your branch. Now let's go back, and for now let's confirm this merge. So now our merge is successful, and to now pull your remote changes to your local, you can use the git pull command. So I am just typing git pull here, and let's see what happens. So your branch says that it's already updated because we are in the branch which has created that pull request. Now let's go back to our master branch or the first branch that we created. For that we can also check our branches as well. So I'm just typing git branch and then git checkout master. Here we have named our main branch as main instead of master. So just check out your main branch and now use git pull. So now as you can see, it says that we have one deletion in the file index.html, and your branch is updated as well because we deleted the header, and here we do not have the header tag now. I know in this video we covered a lot of command related to Git and Linux. So to simplify things for you, you can use this GitHub cheat sheet. Here you can see we have a lot of commands already written. For example, for branches we have git branch, git switch, merge, checkout, etc. And then to synchronize your changes, we have commands like fetch, merge, push, pull, and all these stuff that we have seen already in this video with proper description. And if you go little down, we have a glossary section where all the basic terminologies related to Git and GitHub are mentioned very appropriately. And this cheat sheet is very beginner friendly and hosted on GitHub official website. So you can definitely check out this cheat sheet. After that, let's discuss about GitHub profiling as well. So these days, apart from your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, your GitHub profile is also very important and it has to be maintained properly. So you can create your GitHub profile something like this, where you can mention your tech stack, your expertise and other type of stuff related to you. I have a about me section with a brief introduction about me, a fun fact, etc. You can also connect all your social profile links here, and this profile is very easy to create. You can use HTML like languages, and we have already discussed about HTML in our previous video. I will make sure to add the link on the top of this video. So as you can see, we have headings, links, icons, etc. Whatever you want to add here using HTML like language, you can add it. So that's how you can create your GitHub profile very appropriately, and you can mention everything that you want to showcase to your recruiters. Also, GitHub is a very famous place to start open source with. So what you can do, click on explore, and here you can see a lot of repository on which you can contribute to. There are categories like topics, trending, collection, events, etc. So based on your interest, you can find the open source project in which you can contribute to. Now let's see some of the trending requests today. So when you click on trending, you will get a list of all the projects which are trending today. Now you can filter them based on languages or maybe date range. Let's see the first project. Here if you see, we have issues, existing pull request and discussion happening around the project. You can create a pull request to maybe solve some existing issue, or if you are facing any issue by yourself, then you can raise a issue as well to the owner of this repository. So that's it for today's video. I hope you find it useful. Just to give a brief summary what we discussed today, we learnt about Git and GitHub and the difference between the two. Git is a version controlling system, whereas GitHub is a website where you can host your repositories remotely. Also, if you want to be a part of open source contribution community, GitHub is a very good place to start with. You can explore different types of projects which are hosted on GitHub based on your interest. And if you find them interesting enough, you can create pull requests and be a part of the community. So all the best for your open source contribution journey. But before that, make sure you are confident enough with your Git commands. For that, you can practice a lot of things and you can even use the cheat sheet which I shared in the video itself. You can create projects in different areas of development like web development, Android development in different languages and tech stack. For example, Java, Python, Node.js, etc. So you can create college projects and make sure if you are creating projects, then you are also showcasing them on your GitHub profile and your resume. It will help you to land good job opportunities. So I hope you like this video. If you have any questions, let us know in the comment section. We are happy to answer all your queries. See you in the next video. Till then, take care.